What's up YouTube, this is DWS Darius and today we are in a fish room and this is going to be my first video of 2017. So first of all, I would like to thank all of my subscribers. For those of you who have been with me from day one to those of you who may have just subscribed today or yesterday, I really appreciate all that you guys do. It's just that support that I constantly get from you guys that keeps me going in this hobby, and once again I'm really grateful for all of it. So I've been looking at some of my older videos and I realized that a lot of the content on my channel is sent out to an audience that is experienced in this hobby. A lot of the videos I put forth are sent to people who I expect to know a little bit about fish. However, you guys are not the only ones who watch my videos. I do get a lot of questions from people who don't know much about fish. So this year I wanted to put some videos that are more beneficial towards the beginner in the hobby. Now I don't want to go crazy with videos that are just already all over the internet. However, I do want to give some of my opinions on some topics that are commonly asked to me. So with that said, this video is going to be about 10 tips to keep your aquarium fish alive. Okay everyone, so recently I was speaking to somebody in the hobby who was having a hard time keeping their aquarium fish alive. And when I look back, when I first started in the hobby, I did have a hard time keeping my fish alive. I remember I couldn't keep my fish alive longer than a month. So I know it is a big concern with new fish keepers in this hobby. So in this video I want to give you guys 10 tips to help you keep your fish alive and just to live their full potential, because fish can live long lives. I have certain fish that I've had for 5 years and they definitely show signs of living many more years to come. So in this video I want to give you guys 10 tips to help your fish live longer. So the first tip is going to be to consider the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle, I'm not going to explain it in this video, but there are many videos on YouTube that can give you a nice understanding of what it is. But you want to make sure before you add any fish to any new aquarium that that cycle is complete. All aquariums must go through the cycle, freshwater or saltwater, whatever. They must go through the cycle. And you want to make sure that the tank is just fully cycled. Now it can take time. It can take anywhere between a week to a month, but it's definitely worth the wait. Before you add any fish to the tank, you want to make sure that there's no ammonia, no nitrite, or no nitrates in the aquarium. Make sure that tank is fully cycled and you're going to have a greater success rate of adding fish. I believe that when people add fish during a nitrogen cycle, that's one of the greatest reasons why we fail as beginners, because we rush, we add fish while there's a ton of ammonia in the tank and our fish dies, and it's just a sad story for beginners. So that's one of the major downfalls or the major problems that we face as beginners. We rush in and we don't wait for the nitrogen cycle to be fully passed. But that's my first tip. Make sure that the nitrogen cycle is fully out the way. The next tip I'm going to give you guys is to develop a weekly maintenance for your aquarium. Now if you're like me, that can be a bit difficult because I have multiple tank syndrome. I'm addicted to fish tanks, so now I have 8 aquariums in one pond, and doing it weekly can be a little hard trying to balance it with my normal life. However, I do get it done. And I believe that with one aquarium is much easier. You can probably do it in less than an hour, doing a 25 to 50% water change, along with a little scrubbing of algae and touch-ups that the tank need. And the fish will greatly benefit from it and just live happier lives. Next tip I want to give you guys is to make sure that you don't overfeed your fish. Now I know that this can be quite difficult because it seems like fish are always hungry. And after keeping fish and just so many different types of fish, I can conclude that the greatest joy a fish can experience is the joy of eating. So I do understand that it is hard to not overfeed our fish, but a good tip when it comes to feeding your fish, when you first feed your fish, if they're healthy, they're going to run with all their energy to eat. Just put in a little bit at a time, put in a little bit here, a little bit there, and you watch. In a moment that your fish loses some of that energy, you know that your fish is full, and you want to base your feeding amount on that first time when you do that test right there. The next tip you want to do to keep your fish alive for longer periods of time. I'm reading off a paper, so that's why I have these pauses. But yeah, the next thing you want to do is consider children around your aquarium. You want to make sure children are always monitored around your aquarium. I know that my grandmother had a tank a while ago, and she had kids running all around her tank. And eventually, one of the kids ended up putting lint from the dryer into the aquarium, and that thing just destroyed the complete aquarium. It was lint all over the fish, lint all over the decorations. I ended up breaking the tank down, and it was just a nightmare. And there are different things that kids can put into the aquarium that are not safe, and also kids can be loud and banging on the aquarium and stuff like that, which can be very stressful for the fish. So whenever you have children around the tank, you want to watch out. Just monitor the children, not only for the safety of the fish, but also for the safety of the kids, because that aquarium stuff can be very deadly. I remember when I was a kid, my sister drank some fish medication because my father used to keep things back in the day, and she was rushed to the hospital. So you definitely want to make sure that you monitor all children around an aquarium for the safety of them and for your fish. Next thing you want to do is to test your waters. Now, this is something I learned the hard way. I didn't learn it because it's something I always knew, but it was just, I guess, reinforced to me recently. For those of you who follow my channel, you know that I lost a great portion of my African cichlids, and that's because my pH dropped suddenly, and that's because I wasn't testing my water weekly. So if you want to have a healthy aquarium with your fish nice and alive, I recommend buying one of these master test kits and testing your water once a week. That tests for ammonia, nitrite, nitrates, and pH, which are very important. You don't want any of those levels to fluctuate or to change. So make sure you test your waters weekly. Just know the parameters of your tank, and you will have a greater success rate. The next you can do to keep your fish alive is to observe your fish. Excuse me. I know that sounds very simple, but fish will let you know before disaster strikes. So if you see any change of behavior, if you see any changes of color, if your fish hides more, if your fish eats less, these are all signs that there could be something wrong with your fish. So just make sure you keep an eye on your fish. You need to know the normal behavior of your fish so that you can easily spot behavior that's not normal. The next thing you can do to keep your fish alive is to consider tank mates. A lot of times people fail in this fish keeping hobby because they mix the wrong fish. I remember when I first started in the hobby, I went to PetSmart, and the way they had their tanks, they had certain fish in this section called the community section, they had fish in this section called the semi-aggressive section, and they had fish in that section called the aggressive section. Another cough, excuse me. But yeah, they had all these three different categories. I ended up choosing fish from the aggressive section, and I ended up with a tank with Oscars, African cichlids, Jack Dempsey. It was just a huge mix, and I had fish dying every day. So you want to make sure before you add any fish to your tank, you consider the tank mates. Fish will kill each other if they are aggressive. Fish will eat each other if they're not sized properly. So you definitely want to consider tank mates before you add any fish. Don't go by appearance, go by research and knowledge. The next thing you can do to keep your fish alive is, I just wrote, I'm reading off this paper and it's just super sloppy, so that's why it takes me so long to figure out what the next tip that I wrote down. But the next thing you can do to keep your fish alive is to make sure you don't over clean your filters. Now what I mean by this is that these filters on the tanks, a lot of people, you know, when you clean them, you do get clear water, but you need to remember that these things house beneficial bacteria, especially if your tank is new. After your tank cycles, it will take time for the filter to build up that beneficial bacteria. Now I'm not going to go into great detail because I don't want this video to be too long. You can find other videos about beneficial bacteria on YouTube, so if you want more knowledge about it, make sure you do your research. But your filters need beneficial bacteria, and if you wash the whole thing out, you can remove some of that beneficial bacteria. So what I recommend, first, if your tank is new, give it time to build up the beneficial bacteria, and then once the beneficial bacteria is built up, then I recommend not cleaning every part of the filter at once. You clean this media pad today, that media pad next week, and just give it a nice space so that you don't lose all your beneficial bacteria. I don't even know what tip number I'm on, but I'm just going to go and see which one I didn't do. The next thing you can do to keep your aquarium fish alive is, we covered that. Oh, over filter your aquariums. Now this is something that many of us experienced hobbyists always do, and it's pretty simple. You go to your fish store, you see a filter. This filter says that it's good for 50 gallons. If you have the 50-gallon tank, don't get that filter. You get the next one up, or just the biggest that you could possibly afford, because when you over filter your tanks, you're just making it easier for you when it comes to that weekly maintenance. This right here is a 40-gallon tank. This filter is set for 75 gallons. This right here is a 125-gallon tank. that filter is set for 150 gallons, and this is the 125 over here, and I have this filter right here that is set for 400 gallons. So to the best of your ability, over filter your waters, and you will have great results with keeping your aquarium fish alive. And I think I'm at number 10, and my 10th tip for you all, which is the most important, I think I covered it a little bit earlier, and that is just to do your research. Do your research to know what fish you're adding to your aquarium. I know it's pretty hard because a lot of times when we do our research, we go to our fish store and the fish don't match up what we initially wanted that we saw on the internet. But nowadays, many people have internet access on their phone. So if you go to your fish store and you see a fish that you're interested in, go on your phone, look on the internet, see just basic information about that fish as far as how big it gets, whether it's aggressive or not. You definitely want to do your research because it will benefit you in the long-term run. A lot of people end up getting fish that end up too big for their tanks and stuff like that. So research is the most critical, I think, of all these things that I listed. So YouTube, that has been a video for you new beginners. Let me know what you guys think. As always, I thank you all for taking the time to watch my videos, to show that support. I really appreciate it once again. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button because more is coming. Thank you all for watching and have a good New Year. Peace.